Hello and welcome to this episode of Ask the Guitar Coach. Here is a very interesting question for today. Do I need to perfect each technique separately or work all of them together and practice them at the same time period? I don't want to end up being mediocre in all of them and not being perfect in any of them. So this is actually a really good question, and I want to try to clarify it a little bit because the way it was phrased by our friend is a little bit convoluted. So our friend is asking, should I learn the techniques sequentially? So let's say spend 2 or 3 months on alternate picking, then spend 2 or 3 months in developing my legato, then a few more months developing my tapping. That's one way. Or should I all practice them at the same time? So during a practice period, spend 20 minutes or half an hour alternate picking, then half an hour legato, then half an hour tapping, half an hour sweep picking, etc. So these are the two options, sequentially or at the same time. Which one is the right one? Well, believe it or not, this is one of the things that the actual school system, the educational system, got right. You need to practice them all at the same time period, not all together at the same time. Which means if you have like 3 hours today to practice technique, you divide the hour in 6 half an hour segments, and then you practice one of those techniques in each one of those half an hour time slots. So 30 minutes of alternate picking, 30 minutes of legato, 30 minutes of tapping, 30 minutes of string skipping, 30 minutes of sweep picking, 30 minutes of whichever other technique you're practicing at the time. Now this is very important to understand that I'm not just offering to you my opinion on this subject. This has to do with how the human brain works and how the human body works. In order to create an adaptive response, you need to practice things in a specific way. So without getting too technical, there are optimized ways to develop the myelin that the brain needs in order to learn a new skill, and also to develop the dendrites in the brain to connect with each other and also create a better skill set and make it easier to play the next time. Again, without trying to get too technical about it, the best way to develop this skill is to do it every day and for a set period of time. So to make it clear, once again, you give each technique its own time slot during the day, your practice day, and you practice them every day. You don't wait to become as good as possible in one technique in the period of months, and then you start playing the next technique, and so on and so forth. Now there is an exception to this rule, and it's the following. If you've been playing for a while and there is one technique that's really challenging you, you see that you have hit a wall and you're not getting better and you're not developing, your speed is not going up, you're just not getting any progress on that technique, then you might need to change that for a few days or a few weeks. In this case, following a total immersion protocol where you really concentrate on this technique for a period of 2 to 4 weeks, this might help a lot in moving on to the next level on this specific technique. So for example, I will tell you what my problem was. It was with sweeping. I had been playing for a few years and I was really playing at the same level. It was not getting any better, it wasn't getting any cleaner, it was not developing. So what I did is, if I remember correctly, I took like 3 weeks off, during which period I was only practicing sweeping. So if I was playing like for 4 hours a day, for 3.5 hours of these 4 hours would be just sweeping. I would do half an hour just to remember to keep in shape the rest of the techniques, just not forget them, but 3.5 hours would be sweeping. Actually, to tell you the truth, it was probably way more than 3.5 hours because I would do a morning session and a night session. So all this time was just on my sweeping technique, taking it really, really slow and trying to get the perfect coordination between the left hand and the right hand. And this went on for 2 or 3 weeks. And at the end of this period, my sweeping had really transformed. Now the hands were very well synchronized, and it was kind of like the way opened up for me to develop it even further. So, to recapitulate, what you're gonna do is to practice all these techniques at the same time. Each one will have its own slot during a practice period. However, if you get stuck for a long period of time in one technique and you're not developing, then maybe it's time to do the total immersion protocol on this specific technique. 2 to 4 weeks of concentrating on this one technique. But this should definitely not be your usual practice, the usual way to practice. So there you have it. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on the next episode of Ask the Guitar Coach.